G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Justine Clegg from Allset. He's based in Lehi, Utah, United States of America. Thanks for your time today, Justin.
Great to be here, Troy. Thanks for having me on the show, and love the accent.
Yeah, thank you. And we were just mentioning before we hit record, Lehi, where you're based, is the highest concentration of unicorns in America. And I looked it up. There's only a population of 67,000 people. And I must admit, when you said unicorns, my mind went straight to my 9-year-old daughter's version of unicorns, not the $1 billion. That's why I paused. Not the $1 billion unicorns. But maybe explain to the audience a bit about what the unicorns around where you live.
Sure. So we've had a huge run of success and success stories. Since early days, you've got, companies like WordPerfect and Novell that, started out of this area. And fast forward to last year, the state saw about $3 billion in capital brought in. And then you've got leading, Series A and fundraising deals, and also some really exciting acquisitions. To name a few, Qualtrics acquired for $8 billion, recently Divi for $2.5 billion. And then just a number of really exciting B2B and vertical SaaS companies. So you get a strong, number of highly talented, high integrity individuals in the state. And it's a privilege to get to be able to contribute to the ecosystem today.
Yeah, great. Let's start with how we know each other. So Emma from Kitcaster put us in touch, thought you might be a good guest for the audience.
Yes. Big fans of the Kitcaster platform, and always happy to share insights as time permits.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Sure. So I'm the founder and CEO of Allset. Allset is a conversational texting platform that serves home service businesses. So when we define a home service business, we're usually talking about contracting companies like plumbing, HVAC, roofing, painters, or cleaning companies. So a maid service or a carpet cleaner, all the way down to, outdoor companies like landscapers or lawn care, tree services. So there's 5 million of these businesses in North America today. And these businesses really lack the tools to run and grow. And we see a high number of challenges, particularly in the US, around communications, around payments, and overall customer experience. So in many cases, it's pretty terrible. And so Allset is solving the problem of helping these businesses better communicate with their customers, ultimately grow and unlock revenue for them and for their technicians.
Yeah, great. Maybe give the audience an example of how, say, a gardener or plumber may use Allset.
Sure. So if a plumber signs up for Allset today, and that same plumber, comes to your home and, completes the job and marks that as done in their CRM, that's going to trigger a series of automated text messages that get sent to you. And so those messages will give you an opportunity to pay for your entire invoice through texting. You'll be able to leave a tip. You can leave a Google review and also do referrals. So all of these engagements take place post-appointment, and they make it really easy for your customer to share feedback and insights, which ultimately improve the quality of that plumber and his team in that service.
Great. Wonderful idea. Is it available out in Australia yet?
We have the option to start working in Australia. So we have been very focused on the US, but we would be as limited in a geography as we can provision phone numbers to these businesses and power their messaging.
Please let me know as soon as you launch in Australia, because my gardeners are terrible.
Oh, no.
Part of a big national franchise. I still think I haven't got the bill for the last two times they've been here. They don't email me an invoice or text or anything. They just pop the invoice, a paper invoice, in the mail, in my mailbox without it. There's not a
Wow.
stamp on there. They haven't mailed it to me. He's just dropped it in. Three guys turn up to do my lawns in about a half an hour, but they're invoicing and chasing. I just can't believe they're still in business.
Yeah, it's fascinating to think about digital payments and the digital experience that us as consumers expect, for these services. At least in the US, you can tap, your phone and get groceries, your car delivered. You can get, meal delivered, whether that's through a DoorDash or a similar experience. Perhaps it's like a Deliveroo or Zomato but we have, just kind of this big dearth of quality of customer experience, and it's hurting these businesses in terms of time to pay, in terms of processing fees, and we've got to move away from pen and paper. We've got to
Yep.
move away from cash and checks, and so we're hoping to move the needle and make those improvements.
How did you start out?
So initially, we launched during kind of mid-pandemic, and my focus was I'm a product manager by trade and by background, and I led product teams at companies like Intel and Adobe and Oracle. And so naturally, I asked many of these service providers if I could personally spend time with them in the field and do things like ride-alongs.
Yep.
And so the owners were kind of like, yeah, it's a little weird, of a request, but sure, you can come along with us.
Yeah.
And so sat in vans, went into homes, cleaned carpets, cleaned homes, and observed really what the experience looked like. And the more we spoke to owners, the more we learned about the importance of hiring and keeping and retaining great employees, being able to pay them more, being able to help them access tips, and then ultimately keeping customers happy and turning them into repeat customers were big themes and gaps that we found, which led us to kind of form the early prototype of our product.
Right. And how much time did you spend in the field doing that research, out of interest?
Hundreds of hours, and I think worked with a sample size of anywhere between 10 to 20 businesses. And so, I think fast forward to date, that time really paid off and has paid for itself, as we're now able to process. I think we're processing, like 1.4 million US in GMV for these businesses, and doing countless reviews and referrals as well. So yeah, you've got to put in the time. It's not fun, and during the pandemic, it was interesting because it was very counter, what the expectation was, which was stay home and don't talk to anybody, and
Yep.
focus on your own stuff. But these jobs went from a luxury to a necessity.
Yeah. So what year did you launch the business or start the business? Sorry, not launching the products. Now you did a lot of research. And how old were you? And then maybe go back to a brief history of what you were doing before then.
Yeah. So the initial prototype, I think launched around end of October 2020. And so the prototype was, let's build an app that focuses on one-tap communication. We had a provisional patent around that app, and frankly, we ended up scrapping the entire thing. And we did that for two reasons. One, we realized that technicians don't want to download another app.
Yep.
They don't want to have to learn a new tool. And then second, we had to build tools that run in the background for these contractors, because they are so busy and their time to train and onboard, just isn't really there. And so we, out of necessity, pivoted into, fully automated messaging.
Yep.
And since then, we've seen exciting success.
I had Brian Clayton on episode 63 from Your Green Pal. Have you heard of those guys?
Not yet.
They focus just on lawn mowing people, but I think he says in the cast, they're doing over around 20 million a year in revenue. So he started a lawn mowing business, got to over 100 team members, I think, sold that, and then launched an app that helps gardeners and lawnmower, do similar to what but that's an app. But I totally understand why you've gone with SMSs or messaging. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's in many of these businesses, there can be a low barrier to entry, but it really becomes about time and distance. Can you hire? Can you scale? Can you build a brand around what you're building? But certainly, we see a lot of ankle biters and competitors that you or I am sure would be very competent if we made the decision to go start a lawn mowing business today.
I started mine at age 10.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, that's impressive. That's early. And so I think barrier to entry, in some of these can be low, which makes it challenging and difficult from a competitive standpoint.
Yep. Yeah. So what year did you start the company, not necessarily launch the product? If the first prototype was out October 2020, what year or when did the business?
Yeah, we pivoted to Allset a year later in October 2021. Launched the product fully and then started monetizing in January.
Yep.
And so from really, we've tracked kind of revenue from January to date, and that's grown at about a rate of 110% month over month.
Wow.
So we've got a high growing number of businesses, and it's a very short sales cycle.
Yep, great. And so what year did you jump from corporate to start this business up?
Yeah, I think I've always had entrepreneurship in my DNA. I made the jump from corporate to early stage startups in 2016, late 2015. And, I became kind of obsessed with this idea of, businesses improving the way that they communicate with their customers and vice versa. And really this concept that consumers should be able to talk with businesses and brands in the same way that they communicate with their family and friends.
Yep.
So we found, it's total green field in terms of those opportunities. And when we look at home services specifically, it's very underserved and overlooked.
Yep.
And these technologies around machine learning and natural language processing and artificial intelligence really just haven't been introduced into the space. And those have presented themselves as exciting opportunities for us.
Yep. So how old were you when you started Allset?
So I am 33 now. So I started Allset at 31. Between 31 and 32.
Great. And do you have any other key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business? I mean, that's phenomenal, 110% month on month. I know we're only 5.5 months into the year, but that's wonderful. Any other numbers? The number of team members you started with to where you're at now?
Yeah, so started with a small team of 3. Today we have 10 full-time employees. We have our GMV is at 1.4 million annualized.
What's the acronym GMV? Gross
merchandise volume.
Right.
And so we think of that number as the number of tips that we're able to unlock for service professionals through texting. Right. We expect that number to significantly explode as we introduce and roll out features like text to pay and full invoicing as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So other than that, I think, we've got some great investors on the cap table, investors who've backed companies like Uber and Netflix and DoorDash.
Great.
A lot of really exciting expertise on the table with investors who've been owner operators themselves. They've been in the trenches and they have a deep understanding of SMB and vertical SaaS.
Yeah, fantastic. When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Oh, I feel like I don't know if we're there. I feel like failure could happen at any point, and so we're very much in a day by day motion where we're just focusing on one foot in front of the other. And I think success can be relative, depending on who you are and how you measure that.
That's the next question. What does success look like to you?
Oh, yeah. And I think personally, I think success, looks like really living up to our company values, which are, taking initiative, leaving people better, and giving people an opportunity to build a startup and leave a dent in an ecosystem, all while focusing on family and being a good human. From a business perspective, look, if we can successfully change the way that businesses transact on our platform through seamless payments and seamless digital communication, even getting a percentage or capturing a percentage of that market, to me, I think would be a very big opportunity for our company and what we're building.
Well, it's a huge market just in America. Like you said, there's an addressable market of 5 million of these businesses, and they certainly need to step up that level of experience for the customers and the service they provide.
Agreed.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
So in terms of marketing a business, number one, know the audience, listen to your customers. They are speaking to us in ways that can be very direct and indirect. And I think it's really common for founders, owners, operators to look past some of that key feedback and some of those insights. And then I think from there, in our industry, it's particularly face to face. So we spend a lot of time in person, meeting with these folks where they are, and then leading with empathy in terms of understanding their workload and their workday. These folks are, truly putting in, 10, 12-hour days, 5, 6, 8 appointments. And so to ask them for their time in a conversation, even if it's 30 seconds, we have to take an approach that is, hey, we understand the work that you're doing, and we understand that your time is sensitive, and opening yourself up to educating and teaching, at off hours, evenings, weekends, where it accommodates their needs, not ours.
And you use Net Promoter Score, which is a great one question to measure loyalty. Do you know your number?
Yeah, so we're at 89 today.
Wow.
From an NPS.
Yep.
And I think that speaks to just the fact that our company can truly unlock revenue for these businesses without them having to pull from their bottom line.
Yep. Yeah, great. And how did you fund the business?
So we are venture backed. So we've got leading investors out of California, both Bay Area as well as the LA areas. And that is really giving us an opportunity to scale this and ultimately one day provide a 10 to 100x return.
Yep. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Absolutely. We would do this. I do this for free. So I don't pay myself as a CEO today, given our stage and given where we're at. And there's so much opportunity and so much need in the space that there's enough room for many market entrants, and also enough room to kind of be a winner takes all from the customer experience perspective.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
The most stressful parts, navigating, market conditions. So like we're seeing, high inflation. We've got, war that's taking place, in Eastern Europe. You've got certainly a pullback in tech IPOs. And so I think those macroeconomic conditions make it a little bit tricky to kind of navigate, fundraising and sort of the ecosystem today. Other challenges that keep us up, one, it's just, continuing to really know and understand our customer, understanding who they are, how we want to segment them, how they want to use our products or don't want to use them. And then three, it's very fragmented and disjointed. So you have a lot of businesses to talk to, but there isn't really a clear way, to go into SMB. It's kind of very much a trench warfare and hand-to-hand combat. And if people had figured out how to do that, we'd see a lot more winners in the space today.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
It's a fantastic question. I think, always thinking about product is something where we have to build products that are frictionless, that run in the background, and that are set it and forget it. And so by doing that, that's where we're able to see, easy onboarding, in under 5 minutes. We're able to see businesses that can quickly see ROI and time to value with our product without having to spend the next 3 to 6 months in implementing and learning and training our software.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
I don't know. There isn't a lot that I don't enjoy. Probably, like thinking about financial operations, can get tedious. Making sure that, we've got the right unit economics. But I found that the things that I enjoy the least end up becoming things that I have to spend the time on and then end up learning the best. And so I think you have to kind of pick the things that you hate the most in running a business, double down on those, and then they actually end up becoming strengths.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
I love people, and I think all great businesses start with great people. And so being able to read and quickly discern the character and quality of people, seeing the success of somebody grow and learn a new concept or get to a new stage in their career, being able to look back and see some of the highlighted successes. To me, that's kind of where the fun is investing in people. And certainly this concept of leaving people better, whether that's investors, new friends on podcasts, or our own existing team members. That's kind of a center focus of our values today.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
I would say just consistency and focusing on really the highest strategic value and highest strategic leverage going into a workday. When running a small business or a startup, there are really an infinite list of to-do items. And so it becomes ruthless prioritization and taking really the top 3 things that need to be done and rewarding yourself if one of those gets done, and then 2 of those become back burner. And so I think it's really about being consistent in that prioritization.
Yeah, it's huge because as the saying goes, if everything's a priority, nothing is. And that was certainly a mistake I made early on in my business career, trying to do too many things. Number 1 habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Be able to get sleep and check out. I think if you're not checking out, and sort of work bleeds into your family life, it bleeds into dinner time, it bleeds into the weekends. I think it creates a very dangerous environment for burnout and for impacting family relationships. So I would say setting just clear boundaries on, working hard versus playing hard. And when we play hard, as a team, we're gone, right? We're offline. We are either, snowboarding in the mountains or boating, but then coming back re-energized and ready to take that on. So I think that's something that impacts a lot of owners today.
Yeah, totally agree.
Want to become the best manager you can be? Check out our Kick-Ass Manager course at growasmallbusiness.com. Do the course and add your fellow managers for no extra cost. Join the 30%. 70% of people quit their job because of their manager.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Yeah, big wins are finding great and already successful companies within the ecosystem, and then convincing leaders from those organizations to come and join us. So that's kind of a big focus for us, is finding people who are smarter than us. And I try to become the dumbest guy in the room. Losses in terms of hiring, I think it just comes down to either making the wrong hire and not letting them go fast enough.
Yep.
Or not being decisive enough in hiring and giving people an opportunity early on to be successful and to win. So I think those are probably some wins and losses from the hiring front, but hiring is never easy, and it can take up to 50% of your time at some points, depending on the roles and the needs at the time.
Now you would have seen a lot of different cultures in the jobs you had before you starting Allset. What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
So I think first of all, you have to create a culture of transparency and a culture where it's psychologically safe to make mistakes and to learn and to grow. I think as you get into larger, corporate bodies, mistakes things become more political, and it becomes more difficult to be vulnerable. And so, I have to recognize that I have my own, imposter syndrome, right? That I'm not the best CEO in the world, but that I know enough to be dangerous, right? In terms of who our customers are and what my team needs. So I think you really have to, first of all, lead from the top in terms of being okay with being vulnerable and transparent as a leader, and that kind of gives license to other team members to be able to do the same, and then you start to create that culture of honesty. You avoid over optimism or over pessimism, and you get the job done.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
I'd go back to, work hard, play hard. And I think, you have to intentionally set aside time to go play and to go focus on activities that, that are good for mental health. I think those are keys to balance, is just, spending time outside, spending time taking care of your body and your mind. And I think if you can do that, then I think there's opportunities to be more successful. Our competitors are working out. Our competitors are drinking more water. They're getting more sleep, and we have to, in order to stay competitive, we have to do the same.
And how much professional development have you invested in yourself?
Not as much as I would like. But it's truly a luxury to get to meet and spend time with our current investors and also prospective investors or potential investors. And so I think I consider every one of those calls and conversations a career development opportunity, because you're truly learning from the best and folks who have been where we are. They've been in the trenches and they understand the pains and ins and outs of running a startup like ours. So I'd consider that my form of personal development today.
So yeah, that's the next question: mentors or coaches along the way. So you get a lot of mentoring, I guess, from those investors. Very intelligent, very sharp folks that it's very expensive time, for them to use. And it's not really just about access to capital. It's about access to working knowledge that can save us from making costly mistakes. Yep.
And so outside of that, there's folks at successful companies and businesses that we're always learning from, whether that's peers in a CEO network, whether that's, folks who have, former co-founders, former managers, all good people to learn from.
And Do you have a board of directors or advisors at the moment?
Not today, but something that we'll be forming soon in the near future.
Yeah, great. All right, Justin, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Number one is just focus, and focusing on the most important problems to be solved, and then prioritizing those. If you're not focused, it's very easy to run out of resources and get distracted, and you can be rowing, but that doesn't mean you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, good analogy. Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Ooh, I would say, How Will You Measure Your Life? Clayton Christensen. He was a Harvard business professor and instructor.
I had Bob.
Just,
do you know Bob Moesta? He worked with Clay Christensen. I had him on the
yeah.
podcast a couple of times. He was part of the strategizer. He did the jobs to be done concept within the strategizer framework. I'm not sure if you've been through that, but yeah, Bob's a really interesting guy, and he tells this great story. I'll just look up the episode. Sorry, hang on. Sorry to cut you off. We'll clean this up. Episode 51. We had Bob Moesta on, who worked with Clay Christensen, one of his mentors and idols, who obviously passed away a few years ago, but tells this great story how they pull up. They're traveling a lot in their late 80s and flying around. They had to return the hire car to the airport, but it was low on fuel. They had to fill it up with fuel, and they're rushing because they're running late. Bob's driving, and he pulls up at the pump, gets out of the car and starts swearing his head off because it realized the pump, the fuel tank's on the other side. So he's get back in the car, move it around. And anyway, from that incident, Clay calmed him down. But from that moment, they came up with the idea on on your fuel tank, the little arrow that tells you which side. That's where that idea came from. Took them 5 years to get that implemented through the Auto Association of America. But yeah, sorry, Clay. It sounds like a wonderful author.
Yes, indeed. Certainly someone we highly respect, and lot of really interesting theories that we try to apply to the business today.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I love, recently it's Jason Calacanis, All In, the besties, and hearing their insights. And then, I think hearing kind of the investor psyche from 20 VC is always fascinating as well. So Harry Stebbings, and that also another lovely accent, on a podcast, and great opportunities to learn from, some really talented and successful VCs.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
I would say, find a bank that is potentially even a neobank that is super user-friendly, easy to work with, and minimizes fees. And I think, great companies start with having great access to banking tools. We use Mercury, and that's been phenomenal today.
Yep. Finally, my favorite question: what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
I would say, this thing is a marathon, and give yourself a little bit more recognition than you will.
Great. Thanks very much for your time today, Justin. I think the audience got a lot of value out of what you shared with us. Phenomenal growth. I know you only launched officially in January, 5.5 months ago, but 110% growth month on month, 3 to now 10 team members, and it sounds like an exciting future ahead for Allset.
Lots of work ahead of us, and appreciate you and your time, Trey.
Thanks.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcasts to help with their growth will find us.